Hello, everybody. Welcome in to week 12 best bets. Only two regular season weeks left. Only 2 weeks of gambling, 2 weeks of regular season football. But then the real gambling of addiction of bowl season comes in.
And conference
In
championship
conference
week.
championship week. More bowl games for me just because the matchup. I don't know. Bowl season is it's it's one of those events that just is unlike anything else. It's that. It's the
Mm,
NCAA tournament. It's the Super Bowl. Like I don't know. There's something different about it. It's special. It's individual. I like it. But let's update you on how we did last week because Cody and I did
mm,
not have great weeks last week, but Spencer did.
mm.
Spencer has made two appearances, made picks twice, and he's gone positive both times. He went 4-3 last week after going 5-2-2 the first time he picked with us, but he did pretty well last week. Got a win. Cody, you went 2-4-1 last week, so you got your first push of the season. So now
Yeah.
your overall record is now 41-49-1. And on our head-to-head matchup, win-loss, if you go positive a week, you get a win. If you go negative, you get a loss. If it's a draw, then you get a draw. But you are now 5-6-1 overall in the season. I also lost this past week. I went 3-4. Um, my record is now 42-43 on the season, still hovering around that 500 spot. But I obviously took a loss last week too, so my overall head-to-head matchup record is 5-5-2. So I still have a slight technical advantage over you in our head-to-head matchups throughout the season. But still 2 weeks left. Plus, we'll have to figure out what we'll do for bowl season. Maybe we'll just like pick every single bowl, and whoever
I like that.
gets
Yeah.
more right gets a point or something. I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Yeah. I think we should do like pick every winner and then like pick a bet from every bowl.
I like that. I like that. All right. Well, I think that's everything to catch people up on how we're doing throughout the season, how we did last week. We'll go ahead and get started for this week's picks. Just being Cody again this week. I'm gonna go first. I have mine is the first one listed up here, so I'll go first. My first bet for week 12 is gonna be Michigan State plus 19 and a half. They're playing on the road at Ohio State this weekend. I think I think Michigan State's better than laying or getting 19 and a half points against Ohio State. I just think they're a really good team, and I think they keep it close. I think historically they keep it pretty close against Ohio State. But I think Mel Tucker they more than likely lose this game, but I think 19 and a half points is just too much. So
Yeah. So unfortunately, I think that they're finalizing that extension deal
for
um,
Mel Tucker,
for Mel Tucker, and that in the Big Ten this year is really kind of pointing towards the fact that they're probably going to lose. Because basically every coach in the Big Ten in basketball or football that has had an extension happen, the next game they
they
lose.
lose. I did not know that.
So
I guess it happened to PJ Fleck. That's the only one I can think of.
it happened to PJ Fleck, and then it happened to Juwan Howard and at Michigan
That's right.
basketball.
Michigan
So
just got upset.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I mean, it's not an upset if Ohio State wins, but it's definitely I don't
It
feel
goes
super
with the
confident.
trend.
Yeah, I don't feel super confident of them winning. I think this is a decent pick. I considered doing it myself, but I gotta stay away from Ohio State. They every time I bet them in real life with real life money, they really just screw me over. So I'm just not even gonna
Not even gonna
mess
touch it.
with them.
I
No,
I like it.
like a couple the day I got married, I had them in a 5 game parlay to beat the spread. They
Yep.
had to win by 14 points. They only won by 10 points against Nebraska.
And it was never you
And
never really felt watching that game like that bet was ever gonna win.
no, and that was the only leg of the parlay that didn't hit.
Freaking Ohio State,
Um,
man.
so that just further seals my hatred of the Buckeyes.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Let's go with your first pick. What you got?
Yeah, so I have a Houston minus 1.5 versus Memphis. Um, and I have this because I think that Houston is a darn good football team. They've won 9 straight. Um, their one blemish on the record is a early season loss to Texas Tech, which actually doesn't look like as worse of a loss as it did at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Um,
Texas Tech did fire their
Memphis,
head coach a couple weeks ago.
yeah, well, I still think that was dumb
Yeah.
on their
It
part.
was a weird firing.
Yeah, and Memphis has just like not been inspiring confidence. Like they'll have a week where they do really well, and
Yeah.
then they'll have a week where they don't, and they're really streaky this year. So I'm just I'm feeling that Houston is the superior team there. Has a more experienced team, more experienced coaching, just the whole gamut of things. I
Just a
think
better
Houston,
overall top
yeah,
to bottom
yeah,
team. Yeah. I agree. I like it. That's a Friday night game, right? They're playing that Friday night.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. I like it. My next pick, I'm going back to the well. I was off of UTSA last week. I am back on UTSA this week. Um, they're laying 4.5 home to UAB. UAB is a good team. They're a good Conference USA team, but UTSA is they're on a whole nother level this year. Sincere McCormick, one of the leading rushers in the country. I'm going with UTSA 4.5 at home.
I see. I love this UTSA team.
So much fun.
I think they're like so much fun, and it's just such an awesome story. Like seeing them filling the Alamo Dome is like one
Yeah,
of the coolest things.
yeah.
Like as like that is a big stadium for them to be like having a lot of people in that.
That's
So I don't think they're quite filling it, but
that's such a historic
um,
stadium too. Like it was almost defunct. Like it was like going to be knocked
yeah,
down, and
yeah.
then
I mean, it's really cool, and I think this game at home is going to be a huge deal. I think that crowd's going to be rocking.
mm-hmm.
So I think I like this a lot. I my only caution is that I just think that UAB is it's one of those teams that they're sneaky good. They've been one of the best group
They
of
are
five
good.
teams, just like in consistency levels, over the last few years since they brought their football program back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. That's my only like reservation, but I think this is a good pick.
Fair enough. It was avoided them last week. I'm kind of happy I did because it was a tight one against Southern Miss.
Yeah.
But I'm back on that wagon this week. All right, what's your next one?
Yeah, I have San Diego State minus 11 at UNLV. Straight up, I just UNLV is bad, and you're
Yeah,
only giving me
pretty
11
bad.
points. I think that San Diego State covers pretty easily.
Yeah,
And the Fighting Brady Hoax have the best punter in college football.
Matt Araiza.
Um, so I think that they're just going to be pounding out, giving UNLV bad field position all game long, and UNLV is not going to be able to do anything about it.
Mm-hmm. He also kicks for them occasionally as well. He's not their
Yes,
main
yes,
kicker,
I
but
did.
he does kick.
I'd love to see him nail like a 70-yard field goal.
There's buzz around him getting drafted. Like it's
I
really
mean,
un
he's historically like this is historically the best season a punter has ever
ever,
had. Like we
and
are looking at,
it's not
yeah,
even really close. Like he's
no,
blowing
no, he's had
out
like,
the records.
yeah, like it is an
It's insane.
insane talent. Like possibly if he continues this in the NFL, will go down as the greatest punter in the history of American football.
They'll rename the
Um,
Ray Guy Award the Matt Araiza.
I mean, they honestly based off this year's performance. I
Yeah,
mean, but if he has that kind of talent now, like I'd love to see what those NFL teams can do with him.
I like it.
Um,
He'll get his
well,
chance. He'll probably get drafted later in the later rounds, get picked up, and he'll make a roster somewhere. But
yeah,
I like the pick. All right, my next pick is going to be the same as your next pick. It's another team that I've been riding for most of the season. You've been in here and there on Baylor, and I
yeah,
don't really understand this line. because I understand Kansas State is feisty, and who they beat earlier this season that was very surprising. They beat somebody earlier this season. I feel like
Well, they did beat the quality loss that Oregon has in Stanford.
they beat Stanford. Maybe that's what I was thinking. I don't know. But they're feisty. But I don't understand how Kansas State. And I actually checked this line right before we started, and it's moved away from Baylor's favor. Now Baylor, it's a pick'em game, and Baylor is actually their money line. You get better odds on their money line, so they're
Right.
actually favoring Kansas State slightly now. This Baylor team's really good. The Kansas State team is hit or miss. They can be good, but they're also pretty inconsistent. I think this is a
Right.
slam dunk bet. I think Baylor wins this game pretty easily and it's only minus a 1 point, so I like that.
So I completely agree with you. I think this is absolutely a slam dunk bet. I think that Kansas State is not as good as Baylor, and I don't think that they should be able to compete. However, I will play devil's advocate since we are both taking this, um, and say that Kansas State is playing at Kansas State is a difficult challenge. They always bring a really good crowd because they're the only team in the state that is even remotely good.
I mean,
Um,
the Chiefs are in the state of
well,
Kansas.
yeah, but if you're a college
All
football
right,
fan,
fair
like
enough. Fair enough.
um,
Tulsa? No, Tulsa doesn't do it for you.
Tulsa is in Oklahoma.
Oh, that's right. My bad. Wichita State.
Um,
There, that's the one I meant to say.
they don't have a football team.
They do on Ted
Um,
Lasso. That's where Ted Lasso coached college
yeah, well,
football.
they had
He took
sadly they discontinued their football program. They still maintain their stadium, but they do not have a football program.
Ted Lasso
Um,
took him to an FCS championship, and now they're
I
defunct.
I know, D2 actually.
D2.
Um,
Yeah,
anyways, uh, so just to play devil's advocate, Kansas State's a pretty good team.
fair.
They're a good enough team that like I can see why that maybe it's a letdown game for Baylor. I think
Yeah,
that's part of the thought process. Um, but Baylor's the better team here.
yeah. I completely agree. I wouldn't. I'd be surprised if Kansas State won this game, but at the same time, I like it wouldn't be the craziest thing that's ever happened. So
I mean, they are 7-3, so
yeah,
they're not a bad team. They're a pretty good team.
yeah. All right, my next pick is Oregon State. I'm taking Oregon State. They're at home this week. They're hosting Arizona State. Arizona State's a team that Cody, you more than I has been very much down on. Don't think Herm Edwards is a great coach. I don't think this team is particularly very good. Oregon State has been very feisty this year. They've won a lot of they won a good amount of games. They're bowl eligible for the first time in a couple of years, and they play really well at home. And they're getting 3.5. So I think they win this game outright. So if you want to take a look at the money line, I wouldn't mind that. But I think it's safe option taking the 3.5 here. Oregon State, the Beavers at home.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I like Oregon State. I think they're trying to build momentum to come into that rivalry game with
The
Oregon.
civil conflict.
Um, yeah, I really think that they're trying to build that momentum, and that a big win here at home is going to carry over
Yep.
to a big game at Oregon.
Yep.
So I definitely I like this pick a lot as well.
This pick is about both teams. Like Arizona State, I don't think should be favored in this game whatsoever. And I think I do very much like this Oregon State team. So I like it on
Yeah.
both sides. All right, what's your next one?
So I have Rutgers plus 18 at Penn State. I just don't think that Penn State's offense is very good. Rutgers' defense is much improved. I mean, Rutgers isn't a great team, but I just don't see Penn State scoring more, like 18 more points than Rutgers does.
Yeah,
It's just a lot of points to ask Penn State to score.
that's fair. Is Rutgers a disappointment this year for you? based
No,
on what they did last year. I understand it's
no.
Rutgers and you don't expect him to do a lot, but like they showed us some stuff last year, and Chiano's back, and they've just been pitiful this year.
I mean, it is only year 2, and really, it's year 1 with what would be considered without
Normal
the
times.
pandemic
Yeah,
year. Yeah, and they're 5-5. I mean,
that's fair.
they're 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 possibly gonna be at a bowl game. They play Maryland, and like that's gonna be a big game. It's at Rutgers, so I don't know. I feel like Rutgers is going to a bowl this year.
I like it.
Which honestly, if you would have told me the Rutgers was going to a bowl at the beginning of the year, I would have been like, maybe not.
Yeah, that's fair. It just feels like they're pretty terrible because they haven't really done anything in conference play. They've lost
Sure,
pretty consistently in conference play, and last year with only being conference games during the pandemic season,
right?
they still won what 3 games, 3 or 4 games last year. So I don't know. Maybe it's
Yeah,
if you look at the
yeah,
season in a whole, I guess it's not a disappointment. I just would have liked to see a little bit more in conference play for them this year. Um,
yeah, and I think that that's really fair. But looking at who they played, the only team that I think it was a disappointing loss was to Northwestern. They shouldn't have lost to
no,
Northwestern.
Northwestern's terrible this year.
Yeah, but like every other game in conference, I mean, Michigan, they played close with Michigan and looked really good against Michigan at Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
They got route ran by Ohio State, which, to be expected. Michigan State handled them pretty well, but they played pretty close through the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wisconsin beat them pretty bad.
They're in the difficult side of the Big Ten, so like
Yeah,
their
yeah.
schedule every year is going to be pretty difficult.
Yeah, they're in the East, so like they're gonna have this tougher schedule. So it's an uphill climb,
Yeah,
and I'm satisfied with where the program is at, and I think Rutgers fans should be too. If you can maybe get to 8 wins next year, like that's
if
remarkable.
they can go on a run here, making bowl like not even getting to 8 wins necessarily, but like making a bowl game like
Yep,
3 of the next 4 years or something like
yep.
that, I think they're heading in a good direction.
It does wonders for proving who you are as a program because like the kids that are going into school right now have only ever known Rutgers as a bottom
Yeah,
feeder when Rutgers has history of being and not always, like historically they've always kind of been not that great, but they've had flashes of good teams in the past.
didn't they get up to number
And
2 that one year? Or
I think they were like fifth, and Cincinnati beat them
that's
at
right.
Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And actually, that changed a lot of rules at Cincinnati for like coming on the field after the game.
Oh, really?
Um, yeah, because Greg Schiano was a big baby about it.
Yeah, sort of like
Because
how
like
Lincoln
after
Riley
that,
was this
literally, it
past
was
weekend.
well, it used to be a tradition at UC that like the you could go on the field immediately following the game and like congratulate players and stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, I
Because
can understand why they would outlaw that. Like,
yeah,
you could just come on down to the field after the game.
yeah,
Like, win, loss,
yeah,
doesn't matter. You're allowed. Yeah, I could see how that
yeah,
would be a change. All right, let's get
yeah.
back to the
So
picks. My next pick is going to be Illinois plus 11.5. They're playing against Iowa this week. I'm really only taking this because I don't think Iowa should be more than a 6-point favorite against anybody. So
I think Iowa is a lot better than
I,
Illinois.
I'd
I
agree,
think
but I
that
don't think
that
they can
win
blow them
win at
out.
Penn State. I think that win at Penn State for Illinois is really fluky. I think Penn State was just looking ahead.
Oh yeah.
Um, that being said, um, I don't love this pick. I think if you were forcing my hand, I'm taking Iowa with the points.
I just no. This is only about Iowa. This is the only reason I don't. I know Illinois is bad. They're really bad, but I just don't think that
Well,
Iowa
and you
it
gotta
has
you
the.
gotta remember Brett Bielema's not going to be on the field. He has COVID
Well,
now.
Iowa doesn't have their quarterback right now. They're starting their backup. Spencer
I
Petras
mean
isn't
that
there.
doesn't matter. That literally their quarterback hasn't done anything anyways. You could put me
It's
as their
still
quarterback,
no.
and they're going to be the same team.
It does matter. I don't care how good it is. Your starting quarterback going out and going to your backup, that matters. That guy who hasn't been playing entire season, hasn't had that repetition and that
Yeah.
chemistry with the receivers and everything. Not that Iowa throws the ball a lot to begin with, but
I just think the strength of Iowa is their defense and their turnovers. And so, like, you give me that defense, I think they're going to get turnovers over Illinois.
yeah. I understand where you're coming from. This is just more of like a fuck you Iowa pick. So
Okay, I appreciate it. I love picks like that. Go Illinois.
Fight on, Fighting Illini. All right, what's your next one?
All right. I have Arkansas State plus 16.5 at Georgia State.
Interesting.
I think that this is absolutely ridiculous. Like, this number is absolutely absurd. Georgia State is not that good. Like, they beat Coastal Carolina because they played the perfect game against Coastal Carolina, and they had to like come back multiple times. They've used up their juice. They are not a 16-point favorite against Arkansas State. Arkansas State doesn't have a great record, but they're not as bad as their record tells you they are. They've played pretty much everyone.
I know we were both pretty high on them coming into the season, and like they had a good, solid program. They're usually pretty relevant and competitive, but they have been pretty disappointing this year. I remember I did bet on Arkansas State way back in like week 3 or something like that when they played Washington, because Washington was on that run where they lost to Montana and lost to some other crappy school. So, and they let me down. Washington ended up covering that week. So,
yeah. And I bet against Arkansas State versus Coastal Carolina because the spread was like Coastal Carolina was rolling at that point in time, and the defense, Arkansas's run defense was atrocious, and all Coastal Carolina does is run the ball.
Yeah.
So like that was a key matchup, but Georgia State just doesn't. They don't really have an identity like Coastal Carolina does. So like they're not going to be able to. I don't think they're going to be able to put up the number of points. And speaking to what you were saying about Arkansas State being a little bit of a disappointment, they've had 4 coaches in 4 years.
Yeah.
4 head coaches in 4 years.
Well, they keep getting poached.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, they do, or they retire, or something happens, and I mean that has to catch up with you at some point.
That's
so the fact that they had their run of having really decent quality teams over a number of years, despite that, is impressive and speaks to the culture that was built at the athletic department.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I think that Arkansas State gets back to winning. I don't know that they win this game, but I don't think Georgia State beats them by 16.5.
That's fair. All right. My next pick is going to be an over. I'm going to take the over 57.5 in the Wake Forest and Clemson game. So I know 2 things about Wake Forest. I know that their offense is extremely good, and I know their defense is extremely terrible. And if the over-under is set against anything under 60, I'm taking it every single time. I'm taking the over every single time. I know Clemson's offense has been worrying, but they've started to play at least somewhat better over these past few weeks. Like, it's still not great. It's still not anywhere to like, oh, wow, this is an exciting offense to watch. But like, they can score points, and against a Wake Forest defense that is essentially non-existent, I think they'll be able to put up some points. But I like the 57.5 here.
Yeah, I think that number actually is appropriate. Still just a little high for me. I would be more willing to take it around like 50.
Yeah.
Like 52.
Well, yeah.
But 57.5 is not a bad number for this because Wake Forest is probably going to score 30 points at least.
The only thing that worries me is this is the best defense Wake Forest has played all year. But
I don't think that'll matter.
Clemson's got a really freaking good defense. That's the only thing about this that worries me is that Clemson's defense shuts down Wake Forest's offense for the first time all year. Obviously, I don't think that's going to happen because I'm taking this as one of my best bets of the week. But I do. That's the only thing I really worry
It's an
about when it
appropriate
comes to
worry,
this.
but I also am not concerned about it. I think Wake Forest offense is too good
Yeah.
to be stopped on every single drive.
Yeah. All right, we're in agreement there. What's your next one?
Yeah, I have UL 29 versus LSU.
Yeah, this was an interesting when you sent this to me. I wasn't really sure. What's your reasoning?
So UL Monroe is playing pretty good football for who they are.
Were they the team that
Uh,
upset Liberty earlier this year?
that's a very good
I
question.
feel like
I'm
they're.
not
I'll
sure.
look that up. You keep going.
Yeah, you look that up while I look up their record while I'm talking. But the thing is, Terry Bowden has this team kind of better than they've ever been. Essentially, they've been looking pretty good this year, comparatively to like where they have been as a program. LSU, I think that I kind of think that this is the game where the quit on Coach O. I think that it's either they quit or they're just like not prepared because they think they're just better
Like
than
a Florida Samford situation.
yeah, and I think that UL Monroe is just like better than Stanford. So
UL Monroe's record on the season is
it's
4-6.
yeah,
And
and
they did beat Liberty earlier this year. They were the
yeah,
one that upset
yeah,
Liberty.
and they've had some relatively close games,
They played
even in
Jackson
ones that
State.
they well, look at that. Their Jackson State's
They beat
one loss.
they beat Jackson State 12-7.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually looking at it right now. Yeah, I mean, I think UL Monroe is not. They're definitely not going to win this game, but 19 points against a team that I actually think is quite mediocre in LSU. It's probably not going to a bowl.
Yeah. They
I
still
think
can, I think.
yeah, they have to beat Texas A&M though, and I think
Oh.
that
Oh, but they
they're
have
looking
4
ahead to
wins right
Texas
now.
A&M,
Yeah.
and so like I honestly I think that's what I think that ULM is gonna get kind of this little brother mentality. They're gonna be coming in, chomping at the bit to be beating Big Brother, right? And LSU is gonna be like, oh, they're nothing. We're looking ahead to Texas A&M, and I think that Coach O over the last 2 years has been very bad about preparing his teams against teams that aren't very good. Um, so I give me 19 and a half points, and yeah, I think that ULM can do that.
It's 29 points. But I mean that's even better. I don't love
Yeah.
this just cuz this game just every single one of these
Oh,
SEC
29
games
points.
minus Florida Samford is 50 something to 10, and it that's just so much more likely here than UL Monroe covering this. So I don't love that one, but I can understand
A lot of
where
points.
you're coming from.
It's a lot of points, and if I was actually putting money on it and it hit, it's a pretty good value.
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong. All right, we each got one pick left. I'll go first. So I'm gonna sweep the Oregon schools, and I'm gonna take Oregon plus 3.5 here as well. Playing on the road at Utah. We talked about it in our playoff reaction. The way I think Oregon finishes the season is they go into Utah and they beat the Utes. They beat the Utes, and then they lose the civil conflict the following week to Oregon State. So that's what I'm playing here. I'm playing Oregon plus 3.5 because they're road dogs at Utah, and fuck Utah. But both I thought it was interesting. Both Oregon and Oregon State are 3.5 point dogs this week, so I'm taking both of them.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that the number 3 team is a dog this late in the season.
Yeah.
So
It's like
I love that you're calling it the civil conflict because I made that up on the spot. That's not what it's called.
That's what it's going to be called from now on.
That's what it's going to be called, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
If we can't call it the
yeah,
Civil War, I don't understand why we can't call it the Civil War.
yeah. I'm looking it up right now to see if it has an official name. It's just the Oregon State rivalry now.
That's so
It's
stupid.
not.
That is so
That's so
stupid.
silly.
It's the Civil
Um,
War or the civil
okay.
conflict.
I like civil conflict.
Civil conflict's nice.
So yeah, that's a I think that's a decent pick.
I like this Oregon team. It's fit the way it. This is gonna fit the way I see them finishing this season. A win here, and then a loss to Oregon State.
Yeah.
I also
So
don't
I
like this
think
Utah team.
I'm
And
gonna I'm gonna have to root against this, but not because I'm rooting against you and your record, but because I need Oregon to
yeah,
lose, and I don't want to bank on them losing to a team
Oregon's
that I think is inferior in being Oregon
yeah.
State. Um, so I'm gonna root for Utah, but yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Wait, you're rooting for Utah. You just said that.
I did say
We're
that.
recording this right now.
It's a disgusting thing that I said, but I
Okay.
did say it.
All right.
And
I'm gonna clip
I
that.
am doing
I'm gonna
it
use that against you later.
because I am a Cincinnati fan and I need the top four to start losing.
It's okay. You like Cincinnati more than you hate Utah. I get it.
Yes, I do. So I guess my last pick
Last
here.
pick.
Right? Okay, so I have Minnesota versus Indiana over 43.5.
I didn't like this one either. I feel like
That's fine.
this game could very easily be like 13-7, 13-10.
It very well could be. But I think that Indiana is, despite their really crappy record, is a slightly better team than their record. I
Yeah,
think
I'd
that they
agree with that.
can still move the ball on offense. I think that they can score points. I think Minnesota has been kind of riddled with injuries, but I also think that Indiana's defense is not good enough to stop Minnesota's offense. So I think that I think that they can combine to hit 43.5.
I think that's
Oh.
very easy. It could definitely hit very easily. I hate
It may
betting on
not.
those
It
Big
may not.
Ten.
And this is
Those
for me.
the
This is one of
matchups
those
of the
ones.
crappy Big Ten teams are never fun to watch when you're betting and over because
Yeah,
they
that's
run
true.
the ball a lot, so it's like one drive by Minnesota where they run the ball 15 times, and it's like, well, there goes the first quarter, and it's 3-0.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. That's not a bad take. I just still think like in the games that Minnesota's played where they haven't played well, they've scored like decent amount of points.
Yeah.
And I mean, let me look at their actual like
I know it was a close, tight
schedule.
one. I think they did go over 43.5 against Iowa last week. That's not what the line
Yeah.
was, but they did go over that last week. I know the Purdue game, they went over that. So I don't think it's a bad pick. I like it, but I would.
Yeah, I mean the
If
only
I
team
was
that,
you, I would not enjoy watching that. Like
I
placing
don't
that
plan to
bet
watch it.
and like
I don't
seeing,
plan to watch that
even
game.
like if you're just checking on your phone, like it's gonna
Oh,
be
right.
it's gonna be you're gonna see
Right.
3-0, and then you're like, oh, it must be like 5 minutes into the game, and Minnesota went, and it's like, no,
Sure.
it's the start of the third quarter, and it's 3-0.
Right. I mean, that'll probably be what with my luck lately. But I mean, there's only two teams that have held Minnesota to less than 14 points. You want to know what those two teams are?
Wisconsin? No, they play
They
Wisconsin next
haven't played
week.
Wisconsin yet. They haven't played Wisconsin yet.
I don't know. Tell me.
You're not going to expect who it is.
Oh, it's
It's
Bowling
Illinois,
Green. It's Bowling Green.
and it's Bowling Green in
Bowling Green.
Illinois.
Because they won that game like
Yeah.
14-10, didn't they?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I know that doesn't inspire confidence, but they've scored quite a few points, and then Indiana has been pretty bad lately, and I think that their offense is due for some points.
Yeah. I'm I don't know. I'm not going to repeat what I said because I've said it a couple of times, but I understand where you're coming from with the pick. All right, that'll do it for this week's episode of Best Bets. Only one more regular season episode, then we'll have a special conference championship week episode. But make sure you like and comment. Give us your best bets. Tell us what you think we got right, what you think we're gonna get wrong. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. Find us on Facebook. Search for us on TikTok. Cody's been busting out those TikToks. They're doing pretty well. So yeah, thanks for watching. Appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Bye. I love you.